Alright, I'm back with more Last Flame content, because I've been trying out a lot of these new items in particular, and I thought it'd be fun to do yet another tier list. I'm just a total tier list addict. Um, so yeah, the last one was like an hour, which was a little longer than I expected it to be, a little annoying to be honest, so hopefully this nice short list will keep it simple. Also remove the D tier, there's just not that many things to go through. So we'll just have these tiers and question. I don't know if I'm gonna put any in the question mark. Um, we'll see, I guess, but it's there just in case. And I put notes on these just in case I forget anything. Okay. This is the one. Every time you crit, you gain more crit chance but lose mana, I believe. Last flame open back to check myself here. Background. Sorry. You gain critical strike chance when you don't crit, and when you crit, you lose mana. My apologies. So you're basically losing your ability to cast your spell in exchange for basically 100% crit chance, eventually 100% crit chance. Probably really nice on heroes that don't want to cast their spell, which there definitely are a few of. That being said, it also, I should also mention these all came out, I think it was for, like, 7 items-ish per update. So this one came with the wolf rat guy and the swamp monster. And some of these are kind of obviously designed, I think, for the new heroes. This one seems like it's maybe designed for the wolf. He doesn't care about gaining mana because he can automatically cast every 2 crits, but he cares about crits. Seems designed for him. I'm waffling a little bit because honestly, setting this up, I realized I didn't read some of these items fully in game, and some of them I haven't used. This is one of them. I haven't used it yet. Um, and I only kind of just fully read it. So it seems decent. It's like you need a hero that wants crit, doesn't want to cast, and I guess isn't gaining too much crit chance from other places, or else it's gonna go to waste. I don't know. We'll just give it an A, I guess. These are also crappy screenshots again. I don't have any dev sheets to steal from. This is another one that's maybe in a similar vein. You just want for a hero that doesn't cast. It wouldn't be as good on the wolf rat guy, as he does cast when he crits. But this is kind of like the Yeti's, just in like active effect, where he slowly gains damage until he casts, but on an item. Would be very nice in combination with the previous item. I once again haven't used this one yet. I feel like I tend to lean towards lineups that cast a lot and cast a little, so neither of these have struck out to me. But I feel like it's still got potential. Maybe a little less than the other one because you need a hero that either is inherently not casting much or has something that makes it not cast, something that loses you mana. Um, I'm not entirely sure what those like. I feel like it'd be a bit harder to use. There's other items that I feel like just are a much easier way of gaining damage, giving it to you up front and not having those restrictions. So maybe for this one it's more of a B, I think. I've actually realized I've used none of the items from that like Wolfman update. I've used a lot of the other ones on this list, but not these. At least in the rare / epic section, I've not used any because I've not used the next two either. It's been embarrassing. This one is you gain 100% spell power but lose magic. Sorry, mana. I want to say magic resist because I'm thinking Dota, but MR magic mana regen. So it's 50% spell power, 10 mana regen for the rare, 100% 20 for the epic. Good for any hero that's got other ways of cast because it doesn't go negative. You don't like lose mana from negative mana regen. It just caps at 0. That's kind of an important note. So any caster that isn't relying on mana regen and would benefit from 100% spell power. I can have examples of that. I've been using Ulrich a bit recently with just right click focus stuff. Any caster that's using the spell power but is getting their mana in other ways. Puck, that's not actually the name, but one that looks like Puck and I call Puck. Another example, I always just build attack speed on that hero instead of mana regen, just because of the way she works with critting and giving your whole team attack speed. So I can definitely think of some examples, but it's also there's going to be a lot of heroes that don't want it. Obviously, a bunch of heroes just don't care about spell power and aren't going to want it, and then there's plenty of heroes that care about spell power but are definitely wanting to use mana regen. So I think we'll put this in the B along with the paddle. And the last one, I didn't even write the full details here. You lose 8% attack speed, but you deal every auto attack. You deal like 4 instances of 5 damage. It's 2 instances on the rare version, and you also gain some permanent amp every attack. I think it's 2% per attack. I've yet to use this one because the downside of losing 8% attack speed, that may have even been a nerf that was added later. It was too good or something. It always feels like conflicting, like any of these heroes that are doing on attack F are going to want attack speed. I admittedly, until making this, did not notice the multiple instances thing, which definitely adds some potential for items that proc on dealing instances of F. So I'll probably try it out sometime. 8% is definitely not the end of the world in terms of losing attack speed, but I think when I was looking at it originally, I was thinking of it as like, oh, is it trying to be one of these items that is for like low attack speed builds, and it didn't seem to match up. I just wasn't thinking or reading fully. But now I've read it, I think there's definitely more potential. It seems like a decent F item. That being said, there are a lot of F items out there. So it's like a bit saturated of a pool, I think. Especially we keep adding new items as the game goes on. Not a ton. I don't think the dev is overwhelming the item pool, but I've definitely noticed recently it's a little harder to like get specific items. So for something like an F procking item, there's just a lot of options, and you're probably just gonna take what you can get. It'd be hard to go for like this one specifically or something. I mean, it's hard to go for any item specifically right now, I think, which is not a bad thing. But with that in mind, I don't know. I guess an A tier as well. I'll say it's just like a decent F. If you're dealing F on right click, it's fine. It's just may not be your go-to, and whether or not you can build around it is gonna vary on what other items you get. But it seems okay. Next item, I believe this is part of the Halloween update, almost definitely designed for Mr. Pumpkin, or is it Mr. Pumpkins? Mr. Pumpkins, I believe. I've used this one a few times. Every second you have a chance to stun based on your defense. On rare, it's caps at 40%, which is 200 defense, and on epic, it caps at 80% at 400 defense. So your odds don't get better with upgrading it. It's just the cap, assuming you put it on a very high defense hero. Yeah, I think this is great. If your tank is already like tanky enough with just 2 items, I think and assuming they have a decent amount of defense, this is a great way to get extra utility out of them. There's also more specific builds you can do with heroes like Mr. Pumpkin or maybe like the Tree Man. Um, I've definitely been kind of leaning into trying out having some utility heroes that aren't like DPS focused. Like I feel like when it comes to utility heroes, usually going for a hero that kind of goes for like attack damage or spell power, but just uses it for something else, like doesn't go full into DPS. Either uses attack speed to like proc debuffs, or uses spell power to heal or create shields. Not so much the tank utility, so I feel like a couple of these items open up extra tank utility, which is fun and interesting. So I've been using this quite a lot. I guess I'll put it S tier. I think it's pretty good. Um, Maybe not an every game item by any means, but there's also some interesting passives now, I think, that combo with stuns. There's the Mr. Pumpkins passive. There's also what do you call them? I guess like the general pool of passives. They're unfortunately not in the codex, which is a bit of a bummer. There's only items, heroes, origins. They didn't have those passives at the beginning of the game. I assume he's going to add it before the game gets officially released. For now, there's no easy way to look at them, which is a little annoying. But yeah, there's a couple things that benefit from stuns, so they can kind of combo with, which is nice. I also think it's nice to have some stun options that aren't right-click based, because there are a couple items already that let you stun, and a passive that lets you stun that are all right-click based. There's the one based on Frost and the 2 general ones. I think there's another one based on like Bleed and Burn as well. But that obviously doesn't work so great if you're a slower attacking hero, or just a hero you're not getting a lot of attack speed to. So it's nice to have some other options. I like it. It's a good item, good addition. Next we have a Surge item. This gives 10 attack damage and spell power. at the rare rarity and 20 of each at the epic rarity. I've been using this one a lot. I don't know if it's like great, but it is kind of consistent. It's just, you'll get a nice little boost. The obvious comparison is the fancy sunglasses. Should I actually look up their name? That might be a nice thing for me to do. They should be easy to find, right? They're pretty fancy. Retromations glasses is the name. So that's the obvious comparison because those glasses allow you to gain 350, whereas this item, assuming you aren't increasing the surge cap or have some other way to gain surge benefits beyond the base 12, does cap out at 240 of each, which isn't super exciting. But it's really nice for heroes that are utilizing both of them. Like, I think one I used on recently was did I use it on James? I don't know. I've used it on a few heroes. Obviously, the new Scarecrow hero makes some decent use of it. It seems to be built a little bit for him, because he wants both. So I've used it on him, I think twice. I've used it on a couple of like the brawlers that have decent spells. I've also used it on, I think it was James. Did I already say that? Because he obviously wants attack damage as a right clicker, but his buff that he casts on himself gets better with spell power. I don't remember if I actually ended up using this on him or if I moved it to someone else by the end of the run, but there's a couple of these kind of items that have been added. And also a passive version that comes from the Scarecrow. So I don't know, yeah, a lot of rambling here. I think it's just an okay option. It's nothing to write home about. It's I think objectively weaker than sunglasses without like as just a generic toss it on a hero option. But there's definitely some combos where you can rack up the numbers pretty high. Next item, similar concept. You gain 12 attack damage or spell power per second. It's whichever is lowest. That's only 6 when it's a rare. I think this one's interesting. I think if you already have like the what's it called, the gloom lamp or whatever it is, or the sunglasses, then I think this is a nice little addition just to get more of it. But it does seem like the weakest option of the three, unless you have that really specific relic that increases the rate at which per second things happen. Fight lasts like, well, we can just do an easy comparison here to the surge one, which is 20 per up to 12. So if a fight lasts 20 seconds, you get whatever, 20 times 12, but you're only getting one or the other. So you need a fight to last like 40 seconds for it to be as good as the lamp. The one nice thing is that if you're using a hero like the Scarecrow, for example, that's relying on the lowest of the two, and it is only the Scarecrow or certain items that do that. It's not like a ton of options, but you can fill the one that's weaker, I guess. I don't know. It's okay. I think it's just a worse version of the lamp for the most part. I've used both in combination on one hero, or if I've had multiple heroes that want both, I've picked both up. I think the last run I had both. As I had a couple of brawly heroes that had good spells and right click, but yeah, it may be a little lackluster. Unless you have like a super stally comp, or you just don't have any surge and can't find the sunglasses, then maybe it's a little more appealing. Okay, this one is one of these ones that every time you regenerate mana with mana, it takes away that mana and gives you something else. This one gives you 20 attack damage. This one should actually have a lot of synergy with, I feel like, some of the lineups I go for, where I like to get lots of people casting and giving mana regen to everyone. But I haven't used it yet, surprisingly. I think, having read it, I'm kind of like, why haven't I picked this up? Maybe I probably haven't got it at an opportune time yet. But I feel like this is pretty solid. It would be another one that would combine well with this casting thing, or this other one. Well, I guess I don't know how these would work together, but with trying not to cast, I guess. This one doesn't specifically take away your mana; it just turns the mana regen into something else. And honestly, even for heroes that aren't actively trying to avoid casting, if you just want damage more than mana regen, like you're getting mana regen from a source and it's just kind of whatever, then this could be like a 20 attack damage every second or something. I'm mostly thinking of the legendary item that allows you to give all your teammates 8 mana regen. I pick that up a lot, so I think it has some potential. Probably just another. I don't hate any of these so far, so probably just another A tier. Um, yeah. The bomb. Okay, I'm gonna read this full thing out because it's a bit of a mouthful. Switch to this. Upon taking lethal damage, the wearer explodes, dealing spell damage equal to 1000% of their bonus attack damage and spell power. Additionally, give 50% of their bonus attack damage and spell power to all other heroes. If you successfully win the fight, gave 5 flame if the wearer died. So I've used this once and I didn't like lean into it super hard. I just kind of picked it up before I think it was like a boss, and I was low on flame, and I had a spare heirloom to attach it to, so I just randomly threw it on. It seems interesting. I may mess with it more in the future, but it is really weird. I think any strategy that relies on one of your heroes dying is pretty sus. Like I can see picking it up randomly once again because you're kind of struggling and you just need to, maybe your lineup scales well but is bad with no items. And you're just trying to struggle bust through. There are a lot of items that give both bonus attack damage and spell power now, like the Gloom Lamp and stuff. So maybe there's some potential there. It's just really weird. I'm not really sure. I think for now, as much as I think it's a really funny idea, I think my heart is to put it as C. I feel like it's just a bit underwhelming. I don't really know what to do. Not even underwhelming, I should say, because I haven't really tested it enough to say if it's good or not. But it feels weird to pick up. I don't know. As always, I guess these tier lists are a combination of how good I think things are and just how much I like using them. And this one, I just don't know. I don't really know what situations I would want to pick it up in. Not a lot, I don't think. This is a summon-based one. It's specifically one where you need a lot of summons. You can't just casually have a couple of summons and make it work. You lose a massive amount of crit damage, 80%. But in return, you gain crit chance with every summon. I think it's 6% per summon, and if you have at least 12 summons, you get Omni Crit. So I guess there's pretty obvious what you're using this on. You're using this on someone that needs Omni Crit in a summons comp, and as an added bonus, what you call it? Not an added bonus, but as a balancing uh, act, I guess you lose some of the crit damage, so you have to make that up somehow. Yeah, I don't really like big summon comps. I also feel like they're harder to pull off. Like, I had a run recently where I had the passive that causes a hero to gain attack damage and spell power every time your summon attacks, and so I was just going to put one of the Flyke books on them to boost up their stats, and I couldn't find it because it's you can't ever really guarantee an item. I felt like before though the Flyke books, since there's 4 of them, I thought they'd be easy to find, but near the end of the run when I was looking for it, I could not find it. Additional items in the pool, every specific's just going to be harder to find. I may have also passed it up earlier in the run, which does affect your odds. So I don't know. I do feel like originally when this game first came out, a lot of the summon stuff was really broken, and there was a lot of summon stuff available. More of the new stuff I think has been a lower percentage of summons, so it's a little harder to do now. Like none of the new heroes are summon based, which I like for the record, and only a couple of the new items are summon based. So as someone that already didn't really like doing summon comps, there's like there's even lower chance that I go for it nowadays. So I think that's a bit of another dud for me. Okay, this next item is really interesting. This is probably one of the biggest contenders for the question mark tier. I've yet to take it. It's really funky. Basically, for the first 10 seconds of this fight, you'll be stunned. But you'll gain either 250 or 500 defense while you're stunned, depending on whether it's the rare or epic version of this item. So just a really interesting tank thing. I feel like it'd be particularly nice maybe for the tanks that don't have built-in taunts, because you aren't going to be able to taunt things anyway if you're stunned. I don't know, it's just really weird. It's kind of counterintuitive. Like anything, like if I don't know, if your tank has like a good cast, like a good spell to cast, they're not going to be casting it. If they do something on hit, they're not going to be attacking. The only items, and I guess passive, that would have any effect are purely passive things. I mean, the mask, the creepy mask is like one example. That seems like an obvious combo here. You would instantly max this out and you'd stun the enemy back. Um, there's obviously the Origin that causes a large damage AoE around the hero with the highest defense. That'd be a sick combo. There's some other stuff that's just like, I guess you could boost your stats over time, or like items that just heal you at a set rate and don't require you to attack or cast. It's just weird. It's funky. I definitely want to use it sometime, but I haven't yet. I lean so heavily towards cast heavy tanks that I haven't had a good opportunity to try it. I feel like it could theoretically be really good, or it could be really bad. I'm really just not sure. So I think I will go with my gut feeling and just call it a question mark for now. Um, and on the topic of tanks, this next one, it turns all damage received into a DOT. Specifically, all damage received takes place over 4 seconds instead of instantly. And I just think this thing's insane. Um, as long as you have decent healing, you can just survive. It's getting bursted by big um, nukes, I guess. For example, the dagger's boss at the very end, the right one stabbing down on you, you just don't die to those at all anymore. The item also gives some stats. It gives attack speed, spell vamp, and lifesteal. Um, so it's extra good for like brawlers who are dealing decent damage and can lifesteal a lot, but maybe don't have a ton of HP and defense like a normal tank would. Um, they can just survive. I've used it twice on the bear summoning lady, and it's been super sick. Yeah, I think this item's just crazy good. And the other nice thing about it is that the damage taking place over 4 seconds is for both the rare and the epic version. The attack speed, spell lifesteal, spell vamp, and lifesteal are the only things that get boosted between rare and epic. So it's still usually nice to upgrade it, but it's not necessary, especially for tanks that aren't actually like lifestealing a bunch, like just a caster tank. You can very easily just leave this at rare rarity and be happy with it. I think it's super good. Um, yeah, I picked this up a lot since realizing how good it is. It's just I don't know, it's an easy item to slap on a tank, and it always feels good. Um, next one is for the first 12 seconds of the fight, you get 150% extra damage, heal, and shield, I believe. Let me double check. Yeah, it's an extra 150, not just 150 flat. So a total of 250% damage output, healing. It's heal received and shield received, I should say, not shield output and heal output. I think this one's pretty decent, especially like most lineups take a little bit to get going. That's just kind of the way the items work in this game for the most part. Most of the buffs aren't instant, or else it'd be very boring. They happen over time based on dots or just even just flat second rates sometime. So this is a nice way to start the fight with a bang. Um, I've used it a few times. I particularly liked it on the robot tank that tanks by healing itself. It gives itself attack speed and lifesteal with its spell. This was super nice on this. It's getting the combined, and basically any hero that's surviving based on lifesteal. This is nice on because the increased damage output increases your lifesteal, and the increased heal received increases your lifesteal. You just, it doesn't take much damage output to suddenly be healing to full every single attack. So it's pretty handy. I don't think it's like super broken, but I do think it's pretty cool. I just like it conceptually as well. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily better than some of these A tier items, but I do think it's cool and unique. So that alone buffs it to S tier for me. All right, next up we have the legendary items. Oh god, I've been talking like maybe this is just going to be an hour again. Holy crap! I thought I could talk a little bit about more about each item because there wasn't that many, but this is going to be like another 50-minute video. Lordy, there's less of these at least, so let's go through them. Okay, another summon one. A summon one that seems specifically like it would work really well with this Santa hat. Because this is your summons get your crit chance, and they also have a 50% chance upon critting to proc any on crit procs you have. Um, so yeah, I don't know. This one is definitely more like I could see more reasons that I would pick this up than the Santa hat because it doesn't require a ton of summons. It just requires the hero you're on to have like the Flikes, for example, would be a good use, but still not one I'd pick up a lot. Um, I might try it at some point, I guess. There's definitely potential. I can think of heroes that I use, like the tank that summons on crit. I've just suddenly thought that might be a nice combo. But so far, I haven't had any reason to pick it up. It's definitely pretty low for me. I won't drop it to C tier with the other summon item, but I'm not crazy about it. This item I am crazy about. It gives you 1 mana regen for every bonus 150 or every 150 bonus HP you have. This is just insane for casting tanks, which I already love. You can also theoretically use it on casters. I think that one's a little harder to pull off, but I have done it. Just this morning, I used what's her face? I forget. I'm just gonna check real quick. The Lightning Lady. It's like I don't know why I'm suddenly caring about the name when I haven't for the rest of the video, but Azura. Azura the Lightning Lady. I used it on. She got like 130 extra mana regen just casting constantly. It was like completely overkill. But anyway, it's just nice. Even with just like a moderate amount of bonus HP, you get an absolutely insane amount of mana regen. You can just constantly cast. And like I said, I like caster tanks. That's like a go-to for most of my runs. I'm very formulaic. I like to mix things up in this game, but I do. That's the one thing that I lean super heavily towards, and I'm a little formulaic with. So 10 out of 10 item for me. Oh no, I killed it. There we go. Put that in the S plus tier for sure. This one is every time you deal Eth damage from sources other than burn, you get 7% Eth amp. I believe this is the best version of this you can get. There's some similar concepts, I believe, but they just don't get better than this. It's a really good way to ramp up your Eth amp. Obviously, a great combo with this thing as well. Also, one thing I forgot to talk about, I know I'm already taking so long and I'm going backwards, but this funny flail item, I swear was an old item. That was another thing. I didn't think it was a new item, or I would have been more keen to check it out. I don't know if he like reworked an old item or reused the art, because this was definitely on like the update with the Ratman. I checked the update posts, but I swear it already existed. That's another reason I didn't use it. Anyway, that was random. This is a good combo with this. Is a good combo with a lot of things. I mean, pretty much any on attack Eth dealer. It's just a great slot in. It's obviously still a little niche because I do think Eth. I don't know. I feel like Eth, in my mind at least, an Eth damage dealer is a little niche, but more niche than attack damage or spell power for some reason. I don't know. That's not necessarily true. It's just the way I think of things. It's pretty good. I'll put it in S tier, honestly. I feel like it's if you have an Eth damage dealer, it's just such an easy go-to. Also, I specified on attack once. It doesn't need to be on attack. It could be any Eth damage dealer, as long as it's not super slow. If it's one where you're only dealing Eth damage every couple seconds, maybe it's not so great. But otherwise, it feels like a really easy pickup. Another one. I've only used this once, surprisingly, but I think I'll definitely be using it more because it feels like such an easy pickup. It doubles the debuffs the heroes deal. And as a balancing measure, you lose a bit of attack speed and you gain a bit of mana. But yeah, double debuffs is crazy. I very often have a hero that's just like, okay, you're going to do the debuffs. Kind of just a utility hero. And being able to double those is really, really nice. It feels like an easy slot in. Like I said, I've only used it once, so it feels a bit bold putting it S plus tier, but I feel like this has got a lot of utility. I feel like there's a very few runs where you aren't interested in putting any debuffs on. Like you have 5 heroes, realistically only one of them is big DPS, one of them is a tank. The other 3 have to contribute something, and there's a debuff for every single strat. So odds are it's going to be useful. I think it's really nice. I think I maybe avoided it a little bit at first because the balancing, losing attack speed and mana was like a little off-putting, but I think in concept it's really good, and having just used it recently, it's like it does do a lot. So big fan. All right. The creepy shield on crit, give heroes 15 shield and 1 attack damage for every 50 shield they have. This is kind of an interesting one. It's another way of giving your whole team shield, but it's not like great just as shield, but as an added bonus, it also gives your team damage. I've only used this once or twice. I think it's pretty good. It's obviously a little bit niche, I think, because you need multiple heroes on the team to want the attack damage. If you don't have multiple heroes on the team that want the attack damage, you'd, I think, prefer a better shield item like the staff, or you'd prefer an item that just helps the hero that you would theoretically put this on. Like if it's just one hero that wants to benefit from shield and attack damage, you could just give them. There's a couple other items that give you attack damage based on shield. You could choose one of those instead. Um, so yeah, you want an item with shields, attack damage dealers, and at least one big crit guy that doesn't mind being kind of utility. Otherwise, I think it's pretty good. I would give it an S. I hadn't really thought of it ahead of time. I guess in theory, these legendary things should be ranking higher because they're legendary. I don't know if that's true. In-game shop, they're slightly cheaper than Epic, so maybe it's not true. And actually, looking at the second row, it's probably not true. Alright, but let's get on to that. The Lollipop. So this one was kind of interesting, because I used this and I felt it was very underwhelming. You deal F damage based on the lowest of either attack damage or spell power. 150% of attack damage or spell power. The fact it's the lowest, I feel like, makes it very hard to use. I used it on a hero that did have both. I used it on the Scarecrow, and it just doesn't do a lot of damage. Like, if you already have that much attack damage, you can just build attack damage. And if, I don't know, if you, and there's like other, I just, and there's other items that turn attack damage into F damage that I think do it better. Like, there's the one that scales with Surge instead that can get way higher. So I think this item is surprisingly underwhelming, and I actually looked, when I was looking at the blog posts for when the items got released, I saw this one actually got buffed. It was 100% on release, which is interesting. And I'm not surprised they buffed it, because I do think it's very underwhelming. It's like, yeah, you need a hero that has both massive amounts of attack damage and spell power, and then for some reason wants to use this instead of either just using their attack damage or some other item. It's on hit, I should specify. Maybe if it was every second, it would have more use. I could see heroes that would be more inclined to use it. But the fact it's on hit, I feel like there's just so many better options. Feels really underwhelming. That's a C for me. Okay, the casket. This is another one I'm just going to read out because there was a lot of words. Upon taking a lethal damage, become invulnerable for 10 seconds, gain 140% damage, shielding, and healing done, then die. After a successful fight, gain 6 flame if the wearer died. So it's kind of the same concept as the bomb, where it gives you a little bit of incentive to die, and you also don't have to worry about losing a ton of flame because you gain some flame if you won the fight and they died. If you lose multiple heroes, that flame loss is cumulative, or whatever. It gets like worse the more heroes that die. But if you're just losing the one hero over and over again, it should be fine. Once again, it's kind of along with the bomb where it's like it feels weird to use, it feels hard to use. This one, I think at least I could think of more uses. They get to live an extra 10 seconds, which is way more useful than I think the explosion. They also get a boost in damage and survivability during those 10 seconds. So I don't know. I really must try out the bomb in the coffin more, but they do feel weird to pick up. I'm actually going to put this one question mark instead of C tier like the bomb, because I do think this one has more promise and I just need to try it out more, but it is a hard one to pick up. I can't imagine ever putting it like SS plus tier, because ideally your lineups eventually hit a point where you're just not dying. So yeah, it's very funky. Next one, another really weird one. You turn your HP and HP and defense into F amp, specifically your bonus HP, I should say. There's a relic that does the same thing. I've used the relic before because you can pick it up Act 1 through one of the events, and that was a weird way to play the game. It felt odd not being able to give heroes any form of boost. And this one's also pretty weird. It converts all of it too. Like, it's not just at the beginning of the round or the fight. It's even if you gain more of it, you just gain F amp instead. I have no idea how to use this thing, to be honest. I can't think of situations where it's like, okay, you have a hero that's gaining HP and defense. You're like, oh, actually, let's just turn it into F amp. I don't know. It's really weird. Because, it wouldn't be a hero that deals F amp based on HP or defense either, because you're going to lose it all, right? So I really don't know what to do with this thing. and not like in a question mark way, but in like a C tier way. I think the niche for picking this up, or at least the reasons I can think to pick it up, are so low. I just don't really have any good uses for it. Um, so that's a thumbs down from me. Next one is one I have used and liked a lot. It gives flat 250 HP, but the main draw is that when another hero falls below 50% HP, the hero wearing this item, the Pearl Necklace, will swap locations with them, taunt all nearby enemies, and then gain a shield equivalent to 50% of their max HP. And that can happen every 10 seconds. Um, I thought this one was really nice. I think I used it recently on Mr. Pumpkins. It allowed him to kind of do a little bit of tanking without having a built-in taunt. I think being able to tank without a built-in taunt for a lot of the heroes that kind of seem to be tanks but lack a built-in taunt is already a really good use. I think the fact it kind of saves heroes is a way to just get some added utility. I was talking with a scary mask of having some like utility, messing around with the idea of like a utility tank instead of just utility right clickers or spellcasters like I normally do. And this is another good use for that. Mr. Pumpkins, I think, is just kind of the thing that's got me thinking about it because he, by default, he's a hero that wants to be tanky, but seems to offer more utility than actual tankiness. So yeah, I had this item on him recently, and it worked really well. My actual tank took a little bit of effort to get tanky enough to survive, and so he would get swapped in right away. Um, then my actual tank would get tanky enough and taunt the enemies back, and then occasionally swap a second time to other heroes if they got hit by like backline nukes. It's just handy. I think it's pretty cool. Is it like I'll call it S tier. If it's another one of those where I don't know if it's like amazing. It's kind of like the candy cane. I don't know if it's necessarily an amazing item, but it's decent, and I think it's a cool concept. There's only obviously so much you can do with like giving heroes extra stats, so I think items like this that are just kind of a cool idea are nice adds. So I think this one's pretty interesting, and I definitely want to use it more in the future. Okay, last item. All right, it's only like a 40-minute video. That's not too bad. I used this one for the first time this morning. I'd been avoiding it because I once again didn't read the full thing. So this item gives you 20 defense, and then the bulk of it only works on ranged heroes, so realistically the item is only for ranged heroes. You gain 50 spell power and magic vamp. So you get a bit of extra damage and a ton of spell lifesteal. Then you also get the same thing the Christmas tree does, where all damage received is converted into damage over time over 4 seconds instead of being instant. Um, and that was the part I hadn't read when I first started playing again. And upon reading that, this item seems way better than I originally realized. Because I think turning like your typical squishy backline caster into a melee and only giving them 50% spell vamp is not that appetizing. But I think additionally giving them that damage over time reduction is really good because, like I said, with the Christmas tree, as long as your hero can like lifesteal back often enough, you should just never die unless there's an overwhelming amount of damage. You shouldn't ever die from nukes, I should say. So I used that today and it was pretty cool. It's definitely still a bit of a niche item. I think we may just fill in our missing A tier with this one. You need a backliner that is okay being in the front, I guess. Uh, it's not like an amazing amount of spell power either. It's only 50, so it's not like great as like a damage boost. You just kind of, I don't know. It's just okay, I guess. If you have like one too many backliners, maybe putting one of them in the front is useful. Or if you just have something like the spells from, let me just look at those heroes real quick. The spells from our friends here. The names are so strange in this game. From either Alec or where's the other one? Alec or Zoe, where the spells happen on the heroes. Another one is Flynn. That's actually why I used it this morning, was because Flynn was casting his spell on the highest HP hero, and I was using the one I talked about earlier, whose name I've already forgotten, Azura. So there's like a couple reasons why I could see you wanting to move your ranged hero to the front, and this does it in a way that makes them very hard to kill. You can even just use them as a tank in theory, but they wouldn't have a taunt, which would be a little annoying. But yeah, no, it's a cool item. It's another one that's like I think a really fun concept. There was another old item I think that changed range heroes to melee or something, but it wasn't very. This one I think is much more. It gives you better reasons to want to do it. I think the buffs make it worth it. So it's just kind of interesting. Yeah. Anyway, there's all the new items. I think it's a nice mix personally. I think there's some items like the Christmas tree in the book that seem really really good. Some items that aren't really for me because they're overly summon based, and some items that just seem a bit underwhelming. But it's a nice mix, and I've been enjoying using them. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. So yeah, that's it. See you next time.